Hey fam, welcome back. Tisha here for our first reading of Christine Brown Woolley, Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. If you're new here, I read, I commentate. This isn't like your normal audiobook. I make mistakes. I stumble over words. I'll even ask Alexa sometimes how to pronounce something. Other things to mention, in my thumbnail, normally if it's something that's heavy or maybe triggering, I put a triangle with an exclamation point, something like what you'd see for a warning sign on a tire, on the thumbnail, just to prepare readers for, what we may encounter. But let's go ahead and start with the back. It says, "The camera also shines a light. I saw the funny expression I make when I'm shocked. I decided my clothes were frumpy, and I realized I've spent years saying it's fine on repeat. It's fine because I'm angry and don't have the words for it. It's fine because it's not worth the effort to explain. It's fine, though I might be doing my best to hold the family together while feeling overwhelmed. It's fine because that's what I've been trained to be. Fine. Small, not a bother. I'm certain I come from a long line of women who have said, it's fine. The show forced me to see that it wasn't, and maybe recognize that my ancestors had figured it out too. Strong women, all of them." Great way to start. Great way to start. Her dedication: "To Dad for being my hero. I'm still a daddy's girl. To my mom, Annie, for helping me find my strength. To my other mom, Suzanne, for the sagest advice I've ever heard. For David, the love of my life. Gosh, I love our life together so much. You've helped me become stronger and recognize my value, and you have brought so much fun and laughter into our lives while helping me find a peaceful calm that I didn't know existed. For the children I pushed out of my womb, as well as the children I've gained through my family, my favorite thing is being your mom." Oh, beautiful. Beautiful dedication. So she has the family tree. Cody and Mary have Leon. I love that she said Leon. Cody and Janelle have Logan, Madison, Hunter, Garrison, Gabriel, and Savannah. Cody and Christine have Aspen, McKelty, Peyton, Gwendolyn, Isabel, and Truly. Cody, Brown, and Robin, she says, adopted by Cody from previous marriage, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna. With Cody, Solomon, and Ariella. I know some people are going to have a problem with her putting that, but I actually like that she put that because it goes to show that they do have a biological father who, although I've in the past had some questions about how he's allowed for Cody to gain so much control. Yeah, let me leave that alone. Anyways, prologue. Love is love. On sunny days like this one, it feels as if light touches every surface of the home I share with David and Truly. It's summer, so I've placed sunflowers and other bright bits of yellow throughout. Cheerful, happy. It feels different from any place I've been before. Truly bounds down the stairs, a towel wrapped around her shoulders, ready to head to the pool with a new friend. She just made protein pancakes for the family, and spice fills the air. Cinnamon. Over breakfast, she and David grin and toss puns back and forth across the dining room table, with Truly whispering, "Pray for me," when the dad jokes are too much. It's perfect. I'm gloriously happy in a way that brings my shoulders to my ears and an involuntary self-hug and a satisfied smile to my face, which looks glowier even to me. Take that, menopause. Girl, we'll talk about that. Oh, I love this. David checks in throughout the day. All good? Did you see this? I'm on my last job. I had no idea a phone alert chirp could leave me bestowed. It's just all new for her. It's all the fact that she's saying that she's cheerful and happy and her home feels different from anything that she's ever experienced before. I don't know if Christine ever experienced true happiness with Cody, but we'll get to it. I'm sure she did in her children, but let me keep reading. I bustled through the house dealing with Sister Wives' task. I honestly thought we were done with the show, but here's to season 19, or hiding the breakables for a visit with the grandkids, or wrapping presents for another baby shower or wedding. Sister Wives began just before Truly made her appearance in this life, and she was the first baby Brown born to an audience. She's 15. That's a lot of years on camera, and yes, it changed us. It forced us to see and confront the ways we interacted with each other. We thought we were fine. We wanted the whole world to see what polygamy could look like, and I do believe we demonstrated that it wasn't what people envisioned. Our ethics were strong, and we raised our children with so much love and chaos. The children roamed through our homes depending on their snack needs or moods. Quiet time, Mary. Girl talk and makeup, Robin. A place to relax without nagging, Janelle. One-on-one conversations, games, and hanging out, my house. No one got bored. Someone was usually crafting or baking, and one of us always had time, even if it meant fewer moments to ourselves. We had 75 people at Thanksgiving one year, and untold hordes of people followed the kids home from school or practice for pool dates and movie nights or homework. With 23 people in the house by the end, someone always had a birthday. Whenever I can, I invite it all back in. I'm glad that love, down to all the sibling silliness, made it on film. But the camera also shines a light. I saw the funny expressions I make when I'm shocked. I decided my clothes were frumpy, and I realized I've spent years saying it's fine on repeat. It's fine because I'm angry and don't have the words for it. It's fine because it's not worth the effort to explain. It's fine, though I might be doing my best to hold the family together while feeling overwhelmed. It's fine because that's what I've been trained to do, to be. Fine, small, not a bother. I'm certain I come from a long line of women who have said it's fine. The show forced me to see that it wasn't, and maybe recognize that my ancestors had figured it out too. Strong women, all of them. But was I in a cult? I can hear you. Yeah. I love that she put that. Okay. If I was, I'm glad of it. I come from a family and a community filled with talent, nurturing, and love, and women who had the support and ability to make good decisions for themselves. I think of my grandfather as a hero because he pushed through his fear of outsiders after seeing his family torn apart to try to make our community safer. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do the same, even if I ultimately chose to leave that community. I thought I had exactly what I wanted until I realized my husband had fallen in love. Robin brought on a lot of things. Let's keep reading. And then I realized I wanted some of that. I wanted to fall in love, to find my soulmate, an idea I hadn't believed possible until I saw it happen to Cody. So does that mean that she never saw love between Cody and Mary? Just a question. Y'all tell me what you think. But here's the funny thing about love. I couldn't find meaningful, deep, true, heart skips beat, secure love until I understood some of the wonderful things about myself. You came here for a story, and I have a tale with every element, from an enchanted family cut off from the world to 4 women trying to fit their toes into one glass slipper, to fathers disappearing in the night, to a perfectly ordinary man developing knighthood status after years of tending by his many wives, to a woman finally understanding that she deserved the fairy tale ending she dreamed of before anyone taught her to believe any differently. My favorite part of the story comes with a kiss so intense that every self-doubt I'd ever felt fled from my body, if only momentarily, and pulled me fully into a place where love is love. Woo! Okay, Christine. daughter. Chapter 1. It feels better. Until I was about 5, I was bald. I don't know why. So I wore a towel as a wig as a little girl. Who didn't do that? I know I did, and I would swing it. One time I even put a ponytail holder on it. Let me keep going. I'd imagine my hair flowed down my back in the most brilliant shade of yellow. Sunny, happy, beautiful. My favorite was the lemon-colored one because I knew princesses had yellow hair, and my daddy called me princess. He still does. I remember sitting in front of a mirror, brushing my towel, and I remember it floating up and gently down behind me as I played on the swing set. It was hard to keep it on, especially on the swings, but I found ways to attach it to my head. Dad wondered why I was so into this towel, but that's just me. I chose as a young girl to be positive. Bald? Solution. Part of that was my upbringing. We didn't complain. That's typical of big families. You learn to deal because every boo-boo won't get a kiss. Mom won't always see who pinched you, and siblings tease if you act like a baby. I could have moped and felt sorry for myself, or been a clown to get attention, or stewed and struck out in anger. Instead, I became a mediator, assessing everyone's emotions and working to keep things smooth. I decided, and it was a decision, that I preferred to be cheerful and positive. It feels better. I remember being happy as a child and having fun. I played in the backyard all the time, playing. I loved makeup and dresses and dolls. That was my personality, having fun. I would wait for my dad to come home from work every day, and he always made time for me, even after a full day. My normal looked an awful lot like most kids' normal, spending their childhoods in the early 1970s, except for one thing. By the time I was 5, I'd gotten rid of the yellow towel, and my hair was long enough for my mom to roll it in a pink foam curlers when my dad married his second wife. I remember their wedding and the ringlets I wore with my pretty burgundy dress. I remember being excited because I liked her. My mom and I talked about whom I would marry, just being silly. Well, I'm gonna marry my dad, I said. You can't marry your dad, she told me, smiling. That didn't make sense. My dad was my favorite person. Well, who am I gonna marry? I asked brokenhearted. She told me I would find a good man. I believed her. I knew so many good men. I was surrounded by adults who loved me and made me feel special, who held my hand, answered my questions, and showed me how to do what I wanted to do. I would find someone who would adore me just as they had and whom I would adore back. Everyone in my circle was kind, and I could go anywhere and feel safe. Someone's mom would inevitably, see, here I go with this word. Y'all, it's not coming out. Inevitably. Yeah. Yeah. Inevitably include me with her kids for the day's activities, just as my mom did with my friends and cousins. We all believed the same things. We all knew the same people. We all worked toward the betterment of ourselves and our community. From the day I was born, I felt cocooned in love. That day I weighed 5 pounds. I was premature. My grandpa Rulin delivered me. He was our midwife. And from that moment on, all I felt from him was love. I remember walking with him in the grass, holding his hand, and knowing that he was a kind, good, loving man. I didn't yet know that Grandpa Rulin had to flee from the family when Dad was young, and that Dad didn't see him or many of his brothers and sisters for years. I didn't yet understand at age 5 that in our religion, a version of fundamentalist, polygamous, Mormon, we had to be careful that it was best to refer to children from another mother as cousins. to split up into smaller groups at the movie theater, and to not add Dad's name to school documents. This goes back to me saying part of the reason why I think Cody was able to trick some of them the way that he was, and that Christine and Janelle and some of the others were legitimately concerned that they could be arrested for going public, was real, is because it's something that Christine has been made aware of since she was little. Let me continue. I didn't yet understand the darkness in our community or in that of other communities like ours. I didn't yet know just how far apart we stood from everyone else, from presidential orders to attacks on compounds. Grandpa Rulin was murdered when I was 5. As usual, I sat on the porch one day waiting for my dad, and he got home early. I'm sure my first thought was that I would get to spend more time with him, but I remember that he looked so sad. I'm not sure I had ever seen him look like that before. "Hey, Dad," I said. "Why are you home from work?" "They killed your grandpa," he said, obviously in shock. Another fundamentalist church leader, a member of our family, had ordered his followers to kill my grandpa. I don't remember a funeral or the days that followed, just that my dad was sad. I would hear the family stories of trauma through the years, and they would become my own. But I would hold on to that feeling of being surrounded by love when I thought of Grandpa Rulin. In a way, I would follow in his footsteps. He had tried to tell the world about our church to bring safety to our community, but the threats to our group didn't always come from outside. Let's go ahead and do chapter 2. That's not us. When my parents decided to send us to public school after years of homeschooling, my older siblings and me, it felt like magic. More kids equals more friends to play with. But instead of a new playground's worth of kids to bring out my inner extrovert, my personality shifted. I had been carefree. Nothing in my life was hard. Everything had been good. But as the day grew closer, my parents sat all of us, my older brother, me, my sister, and my sisters from my other mom, down in the living room. What followed was one of the most traumatizing conversations of my life. It didn't match up with anything I had learned to that point, and it terrified me. "Look," they told us, "if the authorities find out your dad lives plural marriage, he's going to be thrown in jail, and you're never going to see him again." Whoa, I was heading into 3rd grade. I just wanted to play. My concept of jail was so vague. It didn't seem good, and I didn't understand what my dad had done wrong. I knew I didn't want to lose him. Public school changed everything. I could no longer refer to Danielle as my sister. I had to fudge relationships. Maybe my sister became my cousin when we were at school. I definitely couldn't say I had another mom, though today I suppose if I said I had 2 moms, no one would think twice about it. But my other mom, my mom's sister wife, couldn't put my dad's name on her kids' birth certificates, so it looked as if the father was unknown. And my dad couldn't come to our school functions because it wasn't fair for him to come to my school plays but not attend Danielle's chorus concert because someone might figure out we had different mothers. That's when I started to fear the outside world and everybody in it. I've said this in other books. I think that it sucks that so much pressure is put on these kids. They're traumatized at such an early age because of decisions that are beyond their control. A lot of Christine's younger years, even though she describes them as great, have probably left a lasting impact on her as well. Teachers would ask me questions and I would freeze up. I developed a lisp. They brought me in for counseling for the lisp, but how could I speak properly if I couldn't speak my own truth? At home, I focused on fun and youth activities at church. There I was popular. I knew everybody. At public school, I didn't join any clubs. I didn't play sports. I had to live 2 lives. It was almost as if I had a split personality. We learned a song in primary school. My teacher told me I should never tell a lie because a lie will bring you trouble by and by. And I think except you do have to tell a lie sometimes. People would ask me what religion I was, and I was so afraid to answer that question. I was supposed to simply say I was Mormon without mentioning the polygamous part, but what if they asked what ward I was in? The whole state of Utah is set up on a ward system. If you grew up anywhere else, it's bizarre, but in Utah, each neighborhood has its own ward, which is sort of a church. Wards are squat brick buildings, but there's no cross because Mormons don't understand why you would celebrate the vehicle by which Christ died. Mormons believe some of the same things about Christ that other Christians believe, that he performed miracles, that he's the Son of God, that he died on the cross for our sins and was reborn. But they believe there was another prophet, Joseph Smith, and another holy book, the Book of Mormon. The LDS Temple, the big white building with the angel on top of it, is for special occasions like weddings. But for everyday religious functions, Mormons go to their wards. I just started telling people I was a Christian, but not Mormon. But then when I was going into 3rd grade, a kid asked me if I had been baptized. I was like, what's baptized? I didn't know how similar we were in our beliefs with mainstream Mormons, but I had no idea Mormons get baptized when they turn 8. Everything was a minefield, and I kept tripping myself up. This all meant I couldn't have friends because kids would ask questions. How many brothers and sisters do you have? Well, my mother had 6 children, and my other mother had 5 children, so 10. But 5 I can talk about. I had a few friends through the years, but anytime we started to get close, I'd make sure they didn't find out anything real about me. I told 2 friends in high school about our beliefs, and we hung out at my house, so they met my family. But that was it. 2 friends in all of my school years. Wow. I hated lying. I didn't like to act like I only had one mom when I had 2, and both meant so much to me. I couldn't bring attention to my dad. I wasn't allowed to talk about how wonderful he was. None of it matched up with what I knew about my family and the people that I loved either. But every family has stories. I learned to balance and juggle. Being raised with fear rather than in fear seems like a small difference, but it means everything to a child. Being raised with fear meant that I knew who I was afraid of, the whole outside world. Being raised in fear meant that I was afraid of the people who took care of me, and I wasn't. I know it sounds as if being sheltered was hard. I talk about it and people say that sounds like a cult, but it was the happiest, most cheerful thing I've ever experienced. I thought being in our church was awesome. We did everything together and had so much fun. There was no hard. I didn't know any different. At home, I felt secure, loved, and nurtured, but I was terrified of everything outside of that bubble. My dad had a seemingly perfect situation when he was a kid. His 7 moms raised him with all of his other siblings. It was like the Andy Griffith show of polygamy, a small idyllic community. But then the law figured out they lived plural marriage, and they threatened to arrest my grandpa Rulon. Grandpa's life story fascinates me. He grew up in Chihuahua, Mexico, in a polygamous family in the early 1900s. But when he was a teenager, he was part of the mainstream LDS church. I'll use Mormon, LDS, and sometimes Saints to refer to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and even married a woman in the temple in downtown Salt Lake City. He moved to California, where he worked as a chiropractor and neuropath. In the meantime, his dad, my great-grandpa, wrote a book defending polygamy. Grandpa wrote him letters begging him to stop practicing it and to come back to the mainstream fold. Apparently, great-grandpa won the argument because Grandpa Rulon then tried to convert his wife to polygamy. They divorced in 1935. The LDS Church excommunicated Grandpa, which meant he was removed from the church rolls and his temple marriage no longer held. This isn't as unusual as it sounds, at least in Utah. I promise to make this quick. In about 1830, Joseph Smith founded the LDS Church. By the time he died in 1844, he had as many as 40 wives according to the church. Our next LDS church leader, Brigham Young, married 56 women. We were taught it was a way to convert more people and grow the church through lots of children, though others have argued it was a way to build a patriarchal society and exalt virility, Virility. Alexa, how do you pronounce Virility?
I pronounce that virility.
Virility. Alexa, stop. Exalt virility. Joseph Smith was killed by a mob while awaiting trial on charges of inciting a riot in Illinois after he ordered a printing press destroyed. Then the Mormons headed to Utah, but Utah also wanted to be part of the growing United States, and things weren't getting any easier for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 1858, President James Buchanan sent in federal troops to quell the Mormon rebellion, by which he meant polygamy. While polygamy wasn't unusual in Utah at the time, the rest of the world wasn't having it, and Utah wouldn't be allowed to join the Union until they stopped with the multiple wives bit. In 1890, church president and prophet Wilford Woodruff, who had 10 wives himself, issued a manifesto denouncing polygamy after receiving a message from the Lord. Some polygamous Mormons thought that was all a bit too convenient. The United States makes polygamy illegal. Utah wants to become a state. The prophet receives a revelation that polygamy is wrong. So many Mormons continued the practice in secret because they had been taught until that point that God wanted them to be polygamous and that they couldn't earn their true place in heaven without the practice. All of which brings us to today. There are several sects of fundamentalist polygamous Mormons. The fundamentalists you've undoubtedly heard of often live in extreme poverty, with the moms and their families getting government subsidies, wearing clothing straight out of Little House on the Prairie, and having a history of abuse and incest. The Kingstons made the news after a 1999 court case in which a teenage girl who didn't want to be her uncle's 15th spiritual wife went to the police because she wanted to finish high school. This led to David Kingston spending 4 years in jail after being found guilty of having sex with his 16-year-old niece. And Warren Jeffs is in jail for life for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl and a 15-year-old girl he had claimed as spiritual brides. Now, y'all know we've read the Lost Boys book, and we know it's way more than even all of that. He wasn't just messing with little girls. He wasn't just messing with nieces. He was messing with his own kids, nephews, all of that. Let me continue. That's not us. Grandpa Rulon led the Apostolic United Brethren beginning in 1954. We call it the work or the group. We believe the Latter-day Saints generally have it right with a few differences, the lack of polygamy being part of the biggest. Polygamy part being the biggest. Grandpa married 16 women. Many of my grandmas lived near us and had 48 children, including my dad. Grandpa was well loved in our community and considered a great healer. But every few years, the law would come after Grandpa for being a polygamist. When my dad was a kid in 1955, Grandpa learned from one of his patients that he was going to be arrested. Polygamy was a federal crime, and he could have gone to jail for a long time. Instead, in the middle of the night, Grandpa's wives disappeared with their children. My dad didn't see his father again for years, and they never again lived together as a family. This story taught me that the outside world was a threat. Grandpa Rulon saw a lot in his travels, and he's one of the reasons our sect is different. We're considered the liberal polygamists because we don't believe sex should be purely for procreation, but also because we engage with our local communities and tend to be more upfront with law enforcement in the hope that communication will bring understanding, which will bring safety. My kids have always known they can be polygamous or not, just as I did growing up. It was also important to our group that people know we don't abuse children. Owen Alred, Grandpa's brother, even fought for Utah's legal marriage age to be raised from 14 to 16, and he often spoke out against abuse. But our family also encountered the dark sides of polygamy. My mom's mom, Grandma Anna, married Florin LeBaron soon after meeting him. Now, we heard a lot about the LeBarons. We've read about them too. Florin founded with two of his brothers the Church of the Firstborn of the Fullness of Times, which was headquartered down in Chihuahua, Mexico, on property they called Colonial LeBaron. My grandpa Rulin spent some time down there too because the LeBarons had been associated with the Apostolic United Brethren, our group. Florin and Grandma Anna had two kids, Don and my mom, Annie, who was born in 1951. It didn't last. Grandma Anna had moved to Mexico to try to make it work, but ended up leaving Florin when my mom was 2. At some point, the LeBarons asked Grandpa Rulin to join their group, but he had turned them down. This is why they say that Christine is royalty, because she has this thing on both sides. Florin's brother, Ervil, eventually started his own group, the Church of the Firstborn of the Lamb of God, after a power struggle with his brothers. Then Ervil prophesied that his brother Joel would be put to death. In 1972, one of Ervil's followers shot Joel in the head. Ervil was also angry that Grandpa Rulin wouldn't bow down to him. Grandpa said Grandpa, was God's mouthpiece. But that's what my church believes about their leaders. This may feel familiar to some of you because that's what members of the mainstream Mormon church believe about their leader too. Russell Nelson isn't just the president of the LDS church. He's the prophet and is believed to receive revelations from God. But Ervil's followers talked about blood atonement, which is basically the idea that some sins are so bad they can only be remembered through death. Remedied through death. In Ervil's mind, Grandpa was a false prophet, so Ervil sent his wives to kill my grandpa. I still have a hard time comprehending this, especially when I think of all the sadness that came from that day. In 1977, Ervil LeBaron ordered two of his wives, Rena Chynoweth and Ramona Marston, to shoot my grandpa. They killed him at his chiropractic clinic in Murray, just outside Salt Lake City. More than 2,000 people went to Grandpa's funeral. Rena, who pulled the trigger, was acquitted. No one cared much about the death of a polygamist, and that it had been a woman who had done the deed seemed unfathomable. But Ervil was ultimately found guilty of ordering Grandpa's murder. He died in prison, killed by the other prisoners, I was always told. Officially, it was a suicide. According to the New York Times, he either overdosed or punched himself in the throat. All the blood vessels in his neck had hemorrhaged. You'll also see that he died of heart failure or a seizure. Yeah, because I was going to say, I thought we heard that he had a heart attack. Every book that we've read has kind of said something different. In any case, he's dead. My mom doesn't talk about her childhood or past in general, so I only recently asked her about Colonial LeBaron. She told me she had never lived there, even as a toddler. I never met Ervil or his wives. My mom didn't meet Florin, her birth dad, in a real sense until she was about 30? What? Then my mom, me, and some of my siblings spent 6 weeks at Colonial LeBaron. We went down again a year later for a wedding. David, my future husband, was at the wedding too, but I don't remember meeting him. Grandpa Owen, who my grandmother married after she left Florin, yes, he was my great uncle, too, took over our church when his brother was murdered, and he continued Grandpa Rulin's mission to tell the world about us. Grandpa Owen even invited state officials in to interview members of our group without prior notice to make sure child and domestic abuse were not part of our culture. For my Grandpa Owen to go public was huge and brave. There are now a few thousand of us, mostly in Utah and Wyoming. I say us as in that's how I grew up. That's who I was with Cody. That was my religion when I believed it was the best way to have a big family. Now, I suppose I could say them. And that's where I'm going to end this first reading. How do I feel about this so far? I feel okay about it so far. If I'm going to be honest, I didn't really have a whole much to add to it because she's doing a lot of history, but she's running through it really, really quickly. I'm ready to get to the meat and potatoes, but I'm going to make sure that I go ahead and put this up now so you guys can at least have something. Let me know down below. Do you guys want me to do this at least 5 times a week, or do you want me to continue to do it the way that I've done previous readings where I alternate between 2 and 3 times a week? Thank you guys so much. Like the video as it helps the channel, and subscribe because we're going to be here, all right? Until next time.